Hi.
Hi. We're here today at OJA Open Journal of Arts and Letters, and we're here today with Kedar, and he's going to go ahead and introduce himself and let us know a little bit about him, and then we'll go into the interview. Go ahead.
Yep. Hi. Hello, everyone. My name is Kedar. I'm from India. I'm basically a veterinarian, but I'm doing research in Singapore, and I'm also a PhD student. So that and my interest in photography is basically because of Instagram.
Can you say that one more time? We had a little bit of a cutout. Sorry.
Okay. Sure. Hi, my name is Kedar. I'm from India. I'm basically a veterinarian, and I'm right now based in Singapore doing research, and I'm a PhD student.
That's awesome.
And
Go ahead. Keep going.
Oh, okay. My interest in photography starts with Instagram, and I'm slowly developing my interest.
That's just for the viewers so that they can see where we're at in the interview.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so let's start with the first question. Mm-hmm. So what are your influences? What made it easy for you to decide that photography was the medium that you were going to pick up?
Well, my biggest influence is my dad, who has been a very passionate photographer. He didn't get much time recently, but I've grown up seeing his photos when there was still the film, and I know how important each photograph was when the roll was very expensive, and he had to be very stingy with but he still did spend a lot of time on photos. So that was my first influence. But then I kind of didn't pursue photography as such. But then with Instagram and all, there is a chance for me to put out some content which I like. So that's basically the influence, because there are so many beautiful photographers on Instagram. Agio has its Your Shot community. So those communities are also a big influence right now.
Absolutely. So what communities do you focus on when you're looking at somebody else's art when you're on Instagram?
I follow a lot of people with black and white photos and portrait photos. I'm really interested in them. But then I don't it's just out of interest that I want to learn more. So on Instagram as well as on Natio, it's much more learning than just following random people, because I look at the whole profile and then see whether I can learn something from them.
That's awesome. Do you feel like you've been able to improve your skills as an artist just from looking at the photos from somebody from Nat Geo and I can't pronounce the other one?
Yeah. Because I look at the photos, but then I also interact with people a lot. So sometimes they have some tips how they took a photo. Like for example, I got one interesting tip from one of the followers who said, if you want to take something like looking up, you just keep the phone on floor and use a remote like a headphone. So that's a very interesting tip, which, well, it's gross if the ground is not clean, but works for a good photo.
That's good.
Some tips like this you always get, yeah.
That's awesome. So I think that's really neat that you guys can still talk in the artist community and still build each other up that way too. That's really cool.
Yeah. The interaction is very important.
So when you are taking photographs and when you're posting them, do you have an overall message, or is each photo kind of its own singular message?
No, I don't have a singular a profile is not very focused on one style of photography. It's more a general, like whatever I see, what I feel interesting, I just take a photo and then randomly post it. But then I try to write a story about that photo whenever I'm posting it, if there is a story. But generally the photo gives its story by itself, so I don't need to say much about the photo.
That's pretty
And
awesome.
sometimes I like.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Sometimes you like what?
Sometimes I like to put some joke or some pun which relates to that photo, and then just gives it a really light meaning.
That's awesome. So,
Yeah.
do you have people ask you for your tips as well?
Not really. I'm not an expert. I'm still learning. But yeah, I do sometimes give out my, like, what photo. Sometimes do write about that photo, because, for example, one photo which I really like of myself was wherein there was a staircase. So I've been looking at a lot of staircase photos from the community. So I wanted to take such a photo. So I wrote about how it went on and how I took that photo, because I was interested by looking at other people's photos. So, I mean, there are some things that I do write, but I'm not an expert to give out tips. I don't believe that I can give tips to anyone.
I think it's good though, because I think that having somebody who's also coming about and doing this is more of like a hobby rather than, because it hasn't developed and they're not, not quite there yet. I think that the fact that you can write like a how-to from an amateur's perspective, I think that would give them at least some place to start, because I feel like a lot of people, excuse me, start and then they think that they have to be great from the very beginning, and there's not really a lot of how to get okay, how to start, how to bridge that gap between beginning and then mastery,
Yeah,
So I think that's really good. I think that's really cool that you do that. I think that's neat to take the opportunity to give other artists who may be having some issues an opportunity to start at the beginning. So that's really cool.
Yeah. One thing I also realize now, that which I didn't think about it before, that I also take photos for my research, like electron microscopy and fluorescent microscopy. So those photos are also a part of my photography, which obviously I don't post out to common societies. Use them for my research articles or posters or whatever. So I mean, in subconsciously that also helps to develop my photography, which I need to look at how to, which part to take and which photo to actually post out on my posters or not. So that subconsciously I feel it helps a lot also.
Absolutely. I
So
think
it's
that.
part. It's
Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
part of it's part of my work also. But then yes, as you said, it's basically a hobby which I'm trying to develop. It's really interesting, and nowadays cameras are very easily available. So why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I was reading your initial interview, and you said your phone, and I was like, holy cow! Like those are taken from like a mobile device. So I was pretty impressed with what you were able to do with the camera as well. That's pretty fantastic.
Yes, my wife and I have been trying to save for a camera, but that's not happening right now. So I'll still go on with my with my phone, but I'll definitely go on to a camera someday. So,
Absolutely, and I think that the fact that you're waiting for any reason is fine. I think that the ability to develop your artwork on different platforms, especially between a phone and an actual camera, that's a huge transition, like a huge flip flop. So at least you'll have mastery over one camera, and then be able to move on. And then you said you like learning. To learn the new one as well. That's pretty fantastic.
Sure, definitely.
So what's the important part of creating to you?
Well, creating, I think it's about the uncertainties and the well, the I would like to call it the rush of it, because when some moment is there in front of you and you want to take that, you want to capture that in the frame in a photo, it most of the times you do get what you are looking for, but a lot of times it also happens that you don't know what you're looking for. So you take a photo and then go back and analyze what the photo is. So that uncertainty is very important for me, because if it's there and you just click, like for example, a flower. So you take a flower and you capture it. So it's nothing very specific. But then if the flower has some bee sitting on it or some dewdrops settled on it, so that gives it a uh, different emotion to that simple flower photo. So that sort of it gives you a different kind of a rush just to look at that flower photo, because it's not just the flower. It's a lot of addition to the frame, which you generally miss during your day-to-day life. Because you look at a flower, yeah, okay, it's a flower. But then when you look at a photo, then there are a lot of additions to that frame. That definitely is very important part of creating for me.
Absolutely. Have you ever had an opportunity to, well, not an opportunity, but have you ever experienced taking a picture? Because I read in your initial interview, you were talking about the part of creating where it's the uncertainty and it shifts. So you see one specific thing, and then you take a picture of it, and then your camera shows you a different thing. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that was really, that was awesome.
Right, because it's like you want to say something in a photo, but then the photo is saying something else, and you really can't control it. You just can't control it, because especially in mobile photography in a camera, it's not the same as a DSLR or a big camera. So the frames normally, they adjust according to the camera. So whenever it's a mobile photography, at least with my camera, I think I've taken some moment, I've captured some moment, but then it's something else. Like, to give you an example, it would be, I wanted to take a photo of basically a beach, but then there was one person who was on a yacht, or what do you call it, a sailboat. So just addition of that sailboat, I didn't notice it with my eyes, but when it was captured in a frame, that one boat gave it a different dimension. So when you just look at one frame in your eyes, it's not as special, but addition of a sailboat in the photograph, I just noticed that sailboat in the photograph and it gave it a different dimension. So that is another uncertainty that you encounter during photography, which I like very much.
Good. That's awesome. That's really good. All right. So, I think that every artist can agree that at some point you've had the want to just quit or give up because you weren't getting anything reciprocated, or it was hard, or it was, financially taxing, or for something. So what keeps you motivated when you come up against some of the day-to-day things that you may experience to discourage you from continuing with your photography?
Well, that happens a lot of times. You like some photo and you post it out, but you don't get that many likes, or you don't get that much interaction on that particular photo, but you love it very much. So you sometimes think, what's going on? Like, I like this photo very much, but people don't seem to like it. But I mean, once you get interacting with people, generally not on one particular, instead of focusing on one photo, if you generally look over a year's work, then it gives you an immense motivation, because you see how people try to improve you, how they want to interact with you. And like, even like, for example, I went to a church for a friend's wedding, and I took a photo of the church in black and white, and posted it. And it, like, for me, it was the most liked photo from my profile, which I didn't think was a great photo, but even my wife said it's a very beautiful photo. So of course you have to respect the opinion of everyone around you. But then, like, when you don't like your own work, but people do appreciate it, that definitely motivates an artist like me, especially an amateur artist like me, because I'm not very sure what I am looking for. But when people do realize that something that I've captured is a beautiful moment, then you realize to trust the community that you're interacting with, and that keeps you going. So instead of focusing on the negatives, I try to focus on the positive interaction that I have. And that is what I like more about Instagram as well, because a lot of other social media are very negative nowadays. But Instagram is still very focusing on the creative and positive. So I more or less quit other social media, but I'm still going strong on Instagram. So that again, the creativity and the positivity keeps you going. So that motivates me a lot.
I agree. I absolutely agree. It's a really good perspective to have too. So, what was your aha moment? I know we kind of touched on it. Kind of touched on it in your introduction. But do you have like one singular moment where like, this is it? This is what I want to do. You know?
Yeah. Well, it's really hard to point out on one particular aha moment. But then it's like so many, when you love your own work and not wait for anybody else to appreciate it or approve of your work. For me, at least, that is my aha moment, wherein I feel satisfied with a photo that I have, instead of I posting it out. And I have so many photos that are just for me, and so I don't need to get approval from anybody else, and that is more an aha moment for me. But there are also these moments where you post a photo and you get very high praise from friends and family. And like, even my family is not very active on social media, especially on Instagram, but I post some photos on WhatsApp groups and I show them my photos, because I'm away from family. They're back in India, I am here in Singapore. But then there is a way to send photos nowadays, and they do appreciate the photography. So something inside that, okay, this is good. Instead of one individual aha moment, I like to take the whole story keep the whole story in mind, and that's more of an aha life for me rather than aha moment.
That's good. That's a really good way to put that. It's pretty good that way. Okay, so why do you do art?
Why?
Why? Why do you continue? I mean, like, there's a certain amount of self-satisfaction, and then there's a certain amount of satisfaction that you get from your peers and from your audience. But why do you wake up in the morning and say, okay, I'm going to do this?
Yeah, that's a very difficult question to answer, because it comes from inside. It's not that you decide to do something just to please everyone else. It also depends on all the influences that I've had since beginning. So why do I do art? Because I've seen people who tell beautiful stories in photographs. So I say, why can't I do that? So in trying to be better than myself, That's why I do art. And art is something very subjective. So it's not like someone will like some work but won't like the other. So for me, it's like I want to express myself in certain ways, and sometimes words are not enough.
Yeah.
And that's why arts is much more important for me, because I, coming from a veterinary background, none of my patients can talk. So I have to find out a way to express emotions, and what better than art to do that. So instead of talking, I would rather just post a photo and tell the story. That's why I do art. But it basically comes from a lot of influences. It's not one particular reason why you do art. It's just a mixture of influences and emotions that pull you towards art.
Do you have any advice for artists who are starting, or artists as far as do you have any advice? We'll leave it there.
Well, I don't believe that I am still at that stage to advise, but I will say what I followed. I heard from that if you are a wannabe photographer, you're nowhere. Just go out and do it. Then you are a photographer. Don't be a wannabe, because you'll definitely not be perfect, a great photographer in your first shot. But you have to keep doing it and keep practicing it. As they say, practice makes perfect. In photography, you can't say you're perfect. Nobody is perfect, but you can be better than yourself. As long as you're planning and trying to be better than yourself from before, that's good enough, I think. So, well, just go out and take photos. That's the only advice I follow for myself. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to say?
Well, no, I just like to thank you for this great opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you so much for coming on and being a part of this. This is fantastic. We really like to be able to talk to you especially and figure out where you're coming from and what your art means and all those things, that are important and essential to actually understanding what you're bringing to the table. So thank you so much for your time. This has been really fantastic.
Thank you very much. Same here. It's been fantastic. Thank you.
And I really appreciate the time difference and all of the scheduling difficulties. Thank you.
Yes, that's no problem. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.